going to start with learning sponsors, and then we'll go right into the daf. Year of learning. Bela and David Adler, in memory of her father Eliel ben Yosef Cohen, friends of Hani Chaifetz, Chana Hashana Bad Yusuf, friends of Jack Prince, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Shmuel, friends of Sandy Davidoff, Shulamit bat Chaim Eliyahu, friends of Judy Cohen, Judith Liba bat Moshe, friends of Dr. Ned Safransky, Hannah bat Ephraim Fischel, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinzer bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Kanan ben Moshe Eliezer Bechana, Pesha bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi Vitzipora, Isser ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Bechana, friends of Linda Katz, Hinda bat Yehoshua, Lee and Harvey Greenberg, in memory of their parents, Esther bat Eliezer, Yaakov Yosef ben Avraham, Sarah Rivka bat Baruch Yehuda B'Tzalel ben Avraham Alevi, friends of Rochelle Ebner Rachel bat Moshe, Ike and Evelyn Blachler, in memory of his sister, Dr. Phyllis Pacheco, Liv Shabbat Isser, Steve and Arlene Greenberg, in memory of his father, Chaim ben Shmuel Halevi, a month of learning by Tova and Leo Uri Zimmer, in memory of her mother, Henya bat Berel, and her father, Aaron ben Yosef Mordechai, Judith and Michael Poretsky, in memory of her father, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Hirsch Feivel, Perry and Joe Meltzer, in memory of his sister, Golda Leah bat David Alevi, and his mother, Malka bat Baruch, B. Pizer, in memory of her husband, Harav Yisrael Chaim ben David, Ira Grobert, in memory of his father, Shmuel Isaac ben Zev Yekutiel, Stephanie Gold and Fred Mortman, in memory of Jacqueline Santis Lepere, sister of Bruce Deutsch, Melon Heron Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega bat Yaakov, Judy Schiff, in memory of her mother, Chaya Chava bat Menachem Mendel, students of Rabbi Yisrael Leib Ed Kurtzer, in appreciation of 17 years of dedication as Maggid Shir of Daf Yomi, a week of learning by Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father, Yehoshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen, Michael and Judith Poretsky, in memory of his brother, Chaim Tzvi ben Gershon. Today we also have a day of learning by Eva and David Love, in memory of her mother, Chaya Alta bat Avraham, by Ari Cohen, in memory of his brother-in-law, Chaim Meir ben Moshe, as well as by Golda and Michael Breben, in memory of her grandfather, Zev Wolf ben Kalman. And Shamas have an aliyah, Krank Rafir, Velti Yeshir, Shem Atzliach, Chol B'nai Yisrael, Good Gebench Jar, and a Tchiyah La'am Yisrael.
Amen. Wow.
Okay?
That's great.
All right. Okay, I'd like us to go back to start this morning on Samach Zion, okay, 67b. If you're using Art Scroll, it's probably B3 or B4. Okay, the very bottom, towards the bottom of the page. Okay, it'll help us get through. And yes, but I want us to go through it.
A little review.
B3. Okay, so what happens is basically we saw the story. Okay, whether there was one frog or multiple frogs coming up on the land. Right? That was okay. That was the story. Okay, and basically citing the there. Okay, the Talz Fardei v'Tichas et Eretz Mitzrayim. We saw that was the question of magic. Amar Rabbi Elazar Fardei Echad Haita. There was one frog. Okay, we read this. We did finish it, right? Hashritza umal'at kol haaretz. That then spread out throughout the entire land. Kitznai is a machloket Tanaim. Rabbi Akiva says, Tzfardeya echad haita umal'at kol haaretz Mitzrayim. One frog and it filled the entire land. Amarlo Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he criticizes Akiva and says, Akiva, malach eitzel haggadah. What are you doing trying to tell folklore, agadata? He says, Kala midvaratechai v'lech eitzel negaim v'ahalam. Okay, go back to your study of more specific details in terms of halakha, example of more difficult areas of halakha, like issues of tzara'at and issues of tuma and tara. Tzvardeya echad haita, says Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, there was a single frog, shraka lahem v'hem ba'u. It croaked, it called out to all the other frogs.
Friends.
Okay, and they all joined. Okay, so that's where we finished Now, as we continue, the Gemara is going to continue and ask the question, from whom did Rabbi Akiva learn this whole business, and what was the situation? Okay?
One announcement, if I may make.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, my Gemara, Oscroll Gemara Volume 2 has disappeared. If you happen to see the one with my label on it, and you can return it to the stack, I greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. See it
Okay.
around or if you
Uh-huh.
thank you. Sorry to disturb.
No problem. Amar Rabbi Akiva, says Rabbi Akiva as follows. Okay, we're on Samechet. As we go through, the Gemara is pretty much a Gadata here, and we'll see what happens. Vaha Rabbi Akiva ma Rabbi Hoshua Gamarli. But we say, didn't Rabbi Akiva learn this from Rabbi Yoshua? Vahatanya. And isn't it taught in the following Braita? Keshechala Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer became sick, Nichnasu Rabbi Akiva v'chaverav l'bakuro. Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues went to visit him. Hu yoshev b'kino. Rabbi Eliezer is in his sort of bed, a canopy bed. Okay, v'hein yoshvin b'traklin, and they're sitting out on the porch. Okay, v'oto hayom, that day, erev Shabbat haya. It was Friday afternoon, erev Shabbos. V'nichnas Hurkanes b'no, and into the room was Hurkanes, the son of Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, lachlotz tfilav, to remove his tefillin before erev Shabbos. Okay, because he did not wear tefillin on Shabbos. What happened? Rabbi Eliezer is now yelling at his son. Ga'arbo, okay, he yelled at his son. What are you doing? V'yatzei b'nezifa, and he left in a huff, so to speak. Amar lehen, and then Hukana said to the other rabbis, okay, lechaverav, to his colleagues, kimdume ani sheda'ato shel abba nitrafa. It seems to me that my father is muddled. His mind is muddled or confused. Okay? Amar lehen. Okay, so they said, in other words, Rabbi Eliezer then responded, you heard what the son said? Da'ato v'da'at imo nitrafa. No, his mind and his mother's mind are confused and muddled. He'ach manichim isur skila v'oskin be'isur shvut. How was it possible? He said that they would be involved in behaving in a manner that could result, I'm going to say, in a prohibition of skila, namely that they weren't lighting the Shabbos lamps at the appropriate time, erev Shabbos, and instead he was focused on voskim be'isur shavut. Instead, he was focused on his father removing the tefillin before Shabbos, which was only a prohibition of the rabbis. Okay? Kevan shera'u chachamim sheda'atom yushevet. And therefore, once the colleagues saw that his mind was not confused and muddled, he may have been ill, but he still was mentally alert. Okay? What happens? Yushevet alav, nichnesu, they entered the room, but v'yashvu lefanav mirachok dalet amot. But they remained from him a distance of 4 amos because he was in excommunication. Okay? Amarle. Okay, so he says to the colleagues, Lama batem, why did you come? Amarle, they responded, Lilmod Torah ba'anu. We came to learn Torah from you. And so he criticizes them. Amarle, va'ad achshav lama lo batem? So how come you didn't come before this? Okay, Amarle, he said to them, Lo haya lanu pnai. We didn't have the opportunity. Okay, in other words, they did not want to remind him about the excommunication. Okay, Amarlehen. Okay, his response to them was even stronger now. Okay, Tamea ani. I would be astounded, he said, I'm translating it that way, Im yamutu mitat atzmam. Okay, if you're all going to die a natural death, implying a death through old age or illness. Okay, Amarlo Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva responds to this statement, Shali mahu, what will mine be? Amarlo, he responded, Shelcha kashem mishelahen. your death will be more severe than theirs. Art Scroll, I believe, has a note on that pointing, right? I didn't write down the note, the message, the number, but it was, remember, they took metal combs and scraped his body. Okay, so torturing him. What happens? Now then, Rabbi Eliezer, Natal shtei zro'otav. He took his two arms and sort of held them against his chest, all right? V'nicham alibo, and against his heart, against his chest. Amar, and he said, Oy lechem shtei zro'otai, shehen kishtei sifrei Torah, sheniglalin harbe Torah. Okay? Woe to you, says that as if saying, it's too bad you didn't come and learn with me previous to this, because my strength is in the amount of Torah I have. And I have this, like we always think of somebody when they make a vow, they often have to hold the Sefer Torah, okay? So that strength that he had of learning. Why did he say he retained his learning even in this situation? Okay, that it's like two Torahs rolled there. Lamadati, okay, harbe Torah lamadati. I learned a lot of Torah. Vaharbe Torah limadati. And I have taught a great deal of Torah. Namely, harbe Torah lamadati. I learned much Torah. And not only that, he says, velo chasarti mirabotai afilu kekelev hamelakek min hayam. And I did not remove any of the learning from my teachers, even as much as a dog might lap up water from the sea. Okay? So in other words, what I learned from my teachers was really, it didn't detract from their learning. Okay? Harbe Torah limadati, and much Torah have I learned. Okay? What taught, that's what I meant. Thank you. Velo chasruni talmidai, ela kimechol b'shfoferet. Okay, and my students did not remove the knowledge that I had as much as even a drop of makeup for the eyes. Okay, in other words, taking the stick of makeup that you would put into the holder, and sort of women would just drop it, okay, on their eyes. All right, so that's the point.
How does his humbleness compare with his education?
Okay, we'll come back to that later. All right. Okay, we're going to. Okay, that's what they were for. That's why they remained distant from it. The Gemara is going to continue and tell us something in a moment. Okay. Okay, v'lo od, and not just that. Furthermore, ela sha'ani shoneh shalosh me'ot halachot b'baheret uzah, that I am capable of teaching 300 laws in regards to severe forms of leprosy. V'lo haya adam sheshoalani behem, okay, davar me'olam, and no one ever asked me questions about these throughout all of time. V'lo'od, and furthermore, not only that, but ela sha'ani shoneh shalosh me'ot halachot, but that I am able to teach 300 laws. Va'amre, and some even say, amre la shaloshet alafim halachot. Okay, benitiat kishuin. That I'm able to teach 3,000 laws in regards to the utilization of magic in order for the planting of cucumbers. V'lo haya adam shoaleni bahen, and no one even asked me about that, davar me'olam, forever, except chutz me Akiva ben Yosef, with the only one being Akiva. How do we know? Right? So what do? We taught him about the magic in regards to cucumbers. One time, Akiva and I were walking along the road. Amarli, and he said to me, Rebbe, my teacher, Lamdeni benetiat kishuin, teach me about the planting of cucumbers through magic. What did I do? Amarti davar echad, I said a single word, nitmal'a kol hasadeh kishuin. The entire field was full of cucumbers. Amarli, he said to me again, Rebbe, my teacher, Madatani Natiatan, you've taught me about planting them. Lamandani Akiratan, teach me about their gathering, their harvesting. Amarti Davar Echad, says Rabbi Eliezer, I said one word, Nitkabtsu Kulan Lemakom Echad. All the cucumbers were suddenly gathered in a single pile. Okay? So what happened? Exactly. Amrulo. So they said to him, now they're clarifying. Okay? What is the next part of the Gemara wants to tell us? They're trying to clarify how sharp he still was and if he had maintained certain halachic positions in regards to certain issues in which there were sometimes differences between his view and the view of the rabbis. Art Scroll, I believe, did make a note that at some point in an argument in Baba Kama, okay, that's where it talks about that's where it talks about the specific incident which resulted in his becoming excommunicated. Okay, but now they're asking him the following questions. Okay, and I just want to precede it by pointing something out. Okay, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, no, I want to clarify it. For an object to become, for a utensil to become tamei, it has to be able to be a receptacle. Okay?
No, it could be a upshutza too, but
Okay?
it needs completion.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. That's more in terms of the shoe issue. Okay? But it needs to have a receptacle. Okay? And the question is, the examples that we're going to give right now are all objects that contain something. Okay? All right? And so therefore the question is going to be, were that object, is it possible that if the outside container, okay, is closed and something is inside it, the receptacle, does the inner item become tamei? And if so, how do you become mataher? How do you purify that object? So that's the discussion. That's the issue behind the following examples. Okay? So what happens? Amrulo. So they said to him, Hakadur, if you have a ball, and inside the ball is, let's say, some wool. Okay? Vaha'amus. Okay, you have a shoe form in which leather workers, shoemakers, okay, put the shoes on in order to create the shoes, in order to format the shoes, right? Vahakamiya, and you have an amulet, okay, which was worn around the neck like a piece of a pouch of leather with something inside.
But the issue with all of these is they once were hollow, but now they're sealed closed.
Right.
So the question is, are they considered still do they
Still Bekabel Tuma or not?
Or are they now sealed up so they're not Bekabel?
Utsror Hamargalit, and we're talking about a pouch with a pearl inside. Mashkalot Katana, and lightweight weights. Okay, Mahu, what is the status of those in the terms of becoming Tameh and becoming Tahor? Mahu, asks the Gemara. Amar Lehen, he answered, Hain Tme'in, they are considered Tameh, ritually impure. Okay, Utaharatan, Bama Shehain, and they are able to become Tahor. Okay, when you dip the whole item, then what's inside also is going to become Tahor. So Rabbi Eliezer has not changed his viewpoint on this issue. Okay? What about the following? They ask, Min'al she'al gabei ha'amus mahu, a shoe that is on this shoe form. What is its status? Here we get to the point that normally we say that an object that is being made does not take on tuma until it is completely finished. Okay? That's the point. So the question is, do we consider, does one consider the shoe still on the shoe form completed, finished item, or is it not? Okay. Amar lehen, he said to them, Hu tahor v'yatsa nishmato b'tahara. Okay, he said it is pure, and he died as he said the word tahara. What happens as a result? Amad Rabbi Yehoshua stood up, al raglav, and says, V'amar hutar haneder, hutar haneder. In other words, they removed the ban of excommunication. Why? So that therefore they would be able to be misasek in the kavura. Okay, so that they would be able to participate and put in the burial, and they would not have to put a rock, a stone, a boulder on top of the coffin to designate that this person was in that step. Okay, so what happens? Okay, Lamotz. The same ones who put him in Cherem, taken out of Cherem.
He did something wrong.
No, what the question was, he disagreed with the majority opinion of Chachamim. And for that reason, they put him in Cherem. Okay? So in this case, even though he continued to maintain his unique shita, his unique opinions, nevertheless, Rabbi Yehoshua, removed the Cherem. Okay? So this way they were able to be involved in the burial, attend, give a eulogy, etc., etc. And the Gemara is going to continue now with this story. The rest of the Braita. L'motzei Shabbat, pagat bo Rabbi Akiva min Kizari lelud. Okay, after Shabbat, which was apparently when they decided to do the funeral, okay, Rabbi Akiva came and met the funeral procession as it went from Caesarea to Lud. Now, Art School raises a side question here. If Rabbi Eliezer was located in Lud, why was it that Akiva had to meet him along the way? The implication could have been that they had brought Rabbi Eliezer to Caesarea because of the better weather, because of the etc., etc., to see if that could help improve his health situation. Okay?
What's the main disadvantage when you put into Cherem?
What is the main disadvantage? The community is not to have anything to do with it.
It's called a shunning.
Okay? Okay, there are different levels of communication. There was Cherem, there was a few other levels. Anyway, okay? It shouldn't happen to any of them. All right, in any case, Rabbi Akiva met the procession. Okay, and as he was walking part of the procession, Hayamakebib Saro Ad She Damo Shotet La'aretz. He would bang himself, okay, that he did not, make amends with his teacher before that, until there was actually blood available. Upatach alav b'shura. And then, okay, as they got to the location they gathered around the coffin in a line, okay, and Rabbi Akiva is giving the eulogy, okay? Amar, and he said, Avi Rechav Yisrael, Parshav Harbe Ma'ot, Yeshli Ve'enli Shulchani Lehit Sote. Okay, citing the pasuk that Elisha used when he saw Elijah going up. Okay, my teacher, etc., my father, okay? And then Rabbi Akiva says, I have many coins, but I have no one to change them, to proffer them, implying that I have many questions, but now I don't have a true teacher that I can go who will explain, who will teach me, and things like that. Okay? Alma, from this we learn, mi Rabbi Eliezer Gamra. Okay, it would imply that he must have learned this whole business of magic and frogs and all of these things from Rabbi Eliezer. No, says the Gemara. Gamra, Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, in Art Scroll note number 32. He learned it from Rabbi Eliezer, velo svara, but he didn't completely understand it. Okay, Hadar Gamra mi Rabbi Yehoshua. he went back then and learned it from Rabbi Yehoshua, va'asbara nahale. And Rabbi Yehoshua explained it fully to him. Okay? So what happens? Gemara continues. Hechi avid hachi va'anan tznan ha'oseh ma'aseh. How is this possible? Because haven't we learned that one who does acts of sorcery, of magic, okay, chayav, is considered liable? So the Gemara answers what was happening there. Lehit lamed shani, to teach, it's a different situation. Why? Da'amar mar, because we have another citation with a pasuk, lo tilmad la'asot, that one cannot teach sorcery in order to practice it. Okay? La'asot iyatalome, to practice the magic or sorcery, you do not teach. Aval atalomed lahavin v'lahorot. But you can teach somebody, in other words, you can teach the laws regarding this sorcery, right? So that the sages could rule on it and make appropriate halachic decisions whether to punish and how to punish individuals involved in sorcery. Hadran alach arba mitot. And so we finish Parak Shvi. Okay.
So before we go on, I just want to point out that Rabbi Akiva was just told his future, and instead of walking out and never coming back, he goes and he ignores that, what was really a prophecy. And in the end, no matter how much he was hurt by the prophecy, he would die the most painful death, which he did. He still showed the greatest respect to Rabbi Eliezer. Amazing from his part.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rabbi Eliezer disagreed with Chachamim, they put him into jail.
Yeah, many times.
Uh-huh.
They don't believe in free speech.
No, there's an
Okay, think of the following issue. Okay? Think of the following, just quick example. Okay? Remember, we also have such a concept of a zakei mamre, okay? Of a rebellious elder, okay? Which implies that someone was teaching publicly certain halachas, okay, that were against the majority views. Okay? So within that concept, okay, we see here an example of that fact.
Wasn't this second?
In other words, teaching halachas.
No, I didn't say he was, but we have the concept of
That's
it.
a good
If
example.
it's your opinion, they won't put you into
Exactly.
But if you're teaching concepts
And
contrary
ignoring
to
them.
halacha,
Publicly,
Publicly, right.
to get, in other words, so you're dividing up the community in terms of the appropriate halachic responses to certain.
and this is what Rabbi Eliezer did.
Okay, that's the point. Okay, all right, let's go on. We're new up to a new parak. Shmini, Ben Sorer Umorer, we should never know. Okay? Okay. Ben Sorer Umorer, the rebellious, stubborn and rebellious son. Okay? Mematai, at what point, Ne'aseh Ben Sorer Umorer, at what point do we say that a young individual, okay, may be considered a stubborn and rebellious son? Misheyavi shtei sa'arot. Okay, once they begin to show signs of maturity through physical growth. Okay, va'ad sheyakif zaken hatachton, until we see the fact that the area, okay, the pubic area is covered with hair. Okay, velo ha'alyon. Okay, and we're talking about the lower area where hair grows and not facial hair. Okay? Ele shedebru chachamim belashon nikiyah. But rather the sages are talking in terms of euphemism. Shene amar, as we say as follows, by citing the pasuk, ki yeh leish ben, if a man has a son, ben velo bat, a son and not a daughter. Ben velo ish, okay, and a son and okay, right, velo, okay, velo ish, Okay, as a man and not a son and not a man. Katan patur. Therefore, a minor is exempt. Shelo baleklal mitzvot. Okay, why? Because we say here, therefore, a minor is not, in other words, below the age of showing physical maturity. Okay, okay, so it has to be above a certain age. Now we're going to get further discussion in the Gemara to try to clarify not only the parameters set by the Mishnah, but additional parameters. Okay? Katan, when we say a minor, minalan de patur, on what basis is he exempt? Minalan, on what basis? Kidikatani, as was taught in our Mishnah. Ta'ama shelo balik klal mitzvot, because we say that a minor has not reached the age of requirement to observe mitzvot. The two, and furthermore, heicha eshkachan the anash hakatuv, where, how is it, or where do we find the punishment written? Dahacha lebae kra lemiftare. But here we have an example of a verse that is going to exempt him. Okay, anan hachi kamrin. This is how we understand and say it. Atu, at what point? Since ben sorer moreh al chatao neharag. After all, we say that this stubborn and rebellious son is he punished, killed because of his past sin? A question mark. Al shem sofo neharag. No, he is ultimately put to death because of what he's going to become in the future. Okay, potentially a murderer. Okay, v'kevanda al shem sofo neharag. Okay, if that's the case, since we say that is due to his ultimate behavior in the future, afilu katanami, then we might even consider that even if he's a minor, okay, we should punish him at the point.
Ishmael wasn't
No, okay. Okay, so what happens? Va'od, and furthermore, ben velo ish katan. Okay, we say a boy, okay, and not ish, okay, and not a man. Cut, right? What happens there? Not a small minor, okay, not a minor. Mashma, and when this we learn, Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, and he says it in the name of Rav, the Amar Kra, because what is the pasuk is saying? And Rav is going to actually not recite or read the pasuk in its pshat, I'm suggesting, but he's actually going to be, in a sense, darshaning the pasuk. Okay? By what is he telling us? When we have the pasuk, ish ben, when a man was going to have a son, ben hasamuch legvurato shel ish. Maybe we need to read the pasuk, okay? And in other words, in terms of the young man is approaching adulthood, okay? And that's what we're saying, okay? Art Scroll notes number 14 and 15 are worth marking in this case, okay? In other words, that is how he's citing Rav's possible understanding of the pasuk. In other words, not when he's I'll call it an early teenage, but a later, okay, teenage approaching adulthood, but not yet an adult. Okay? Now, our Mishnah comes back and told us, Va'ad she'yikof zaken hatachton v'chuli. Okay, what is the upper age limit that he might be considered ben sorer moreh? A age where the pubic hair, okay, is significant in that region. Tani Rabbi Chia, and Rabbi Chia spells it out in the following brayta. Ad sheyikof atara, okay, until it covers the crown. Okay, what does he mean by the crown? Okay, does he mean the entire pubic area? Ki ata Rav Dimi, and when Rav Dimi came, Amar, he said, Hakafat Gid v'lo hakafat beitzim. He clarifies it even further. We're talking about the pubic hair surrounding the area of the male organ and not growing further down around the testicles.
Usually it's about age 12, I think, on average. So why would you talk about a late age teenager and an early age?
Because you have some people that don't begin to show signs of physical maturity till later in age. You're correct, Bob. Okay, that in today's society we normally think of that around 12 or so. But you could have some boys, okay, that might show a little earlier, some that might show later. Okay? All right. Now, what happens? Another question? Comment? Okay. Let's go on. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda. What about the following example? Let's say there's a situation, says Rav Chisda, Katan Shaholi, okay, that while still a minor, and you remember we have learned elsewhere in the Gemara that the rabbis thought that somebody as old as 9 plus, okay, would still be able to reproduce, okay, produce enough seed to give birth, right? So what happens? Katan shaholid, ein beno ne'asa ben sorer umoreh. The son of a minor who fathered that child, okay, that child cannot be considered a ben sorer umoreh. Okay, why? Shene'amar, because the pasuk spells out and says, Ki le'ish ben. It says has to be to a man. Le'ish ben velo leben ben. Okay, to a man it has to be the son, and not to a son to be a son. Okay, Hi mebayele likadarav Yehuda, and this seems necessary. Okay, to reflect on the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Amar Rav, who said in the name of Rav, Im Kain, Lema Kra, let us understand the verse saying, Ki ben leish. Maybe if that were the case, maybe that we should understand the language of the pasuk and read it in a different manner. Ki ben, ben leish, when there is a son to the man, as opposed to man son. Mai, what do we mean? Ki ish ben. Then why is it phrased in the manner that the Torah says it? Okay? Shmamina likterav chista. We learn this in order to understand the message, the lesson that Rav Chisda is giving us. Ve'ema, and I might say as well, kule lahachi huda'ata. For all of that, okay, you've come to tell us this? Imkain, if that's the case, nema kra, maybe we should have the verse and read it the following way. Ben ish, ma'ile ish ben. Okay, with the son of a man. What do we mean? For the man, there's a son. Shmamina tarte. We learn both of these understandings, both situations. Okay? But what happens is the Gemara, upliga, we have this idea of a minor capable of producing a child in that issue. Okay, the Rabba, okay, who also made a comment about this. The Amar Rava, as Rava says, Katan no molid. No, he's of the opinion that a minor cannot produce a child. Shene'amar, why? Because we have another pasuk that tells us, Im ein la ish go'el. If an individual does not have a redeemer, we're talking about a situation of, in a moment of a convert, okay, that and has no one to either inherit him or no one, if he's owed a debt, to whom the money is to be paid. Im ein la ish go'el. So the Gemara says, "V'chi yesh le'acha adam b'Yisrael she'ein lo go'el." Is it possible that there is a Jewish person, okay, man, that has no relative? Ella, rather, what we're talking about specifically, begezel hager hakatuv medaber. Okay, we're talking clearly about a situation of thievery, money that needs to be paid back. Hakatuv medaber, and we'll go over just a little bit on the top of Samach Tet. Okay, va'amar rachmana, and there the Torah tells us in a pasuk. Okay, the following. All right, ish atat tzarich lachzor alav. Okay, so in other words, denying a debt to an adult convert. Okay, are we talking about an examination of the existence of relatives conducted before the restitution is made to the Kohen? That there has to be an examination there. Im yesh lo go'alim ve'im lav, whether there are relatives or not. Katan, but regarding a minor, I atat tzarich lachzor alav, you do not have to make such an examination. Beyadua she'ein lo go'alim, because under those circumstances, we would determine that the minor who converted, okay, is like a new, okay, has no family, no relatives in that situation. Okay, we're going to continue then on that page tomorrow. Etive abaye, ish ainli, etc., etc. Okay, so that's where we'll stop. Okay,
Beautifully done.
all right.
I don't think you have to use it, but they can put it back on the shelf, so I know. So I know that I can put it back in my set that it's not.
What do you do with a broken ox like you do some?
I haven't traveled.
The implication there is that she cannot be held liable. Okay, the same way a boy could be. Remember, the definition we're going to see ultimately is that number one, the boy steals money from the father, particularly, but it could be from the mother. Uses the money to buy food, meat, wine, whatever, gluttony, drunkenness. He's brought to a place. He gets mulcted. Okay?
It's never happened. So.
Okay? Number
According to one opinion.
then the Gemara
I don't know.
the second.
Kids.
Under those circumstances,
Yeah.
then the question is, does that point, does he get mulcted?
No, we're
again?
talking about, you
So
know what
third
the
time,
analogy
Or
would be
after the
today?
second time, is he going to
A
get
kid is a psychopath.
Okay.
He's 11 years old, 12 years old. He's starting fires.
So
He's
on the
killing
other-
cats.
on the other
You
hand,
know he's going to
Okay.
grow up to be a serial killer.
the
What do you do
Chachamim are
with him?
saying ultimately,
So the Torah
hayav
says,
v'lo
under those kinds of circumstances,
it never
you
really
kill him in advance to
Now,
further
with
the
Torah,
public
we'd have
welfare.
less
Now, in reality, I remember my son
Yeah,
who
no,
was
you
a
kill him in
federal
advance so he
probation
doesn't
officer.
become a terror to
In
the
reading that he had to do, there are clear studies, sociological studies, that point to the fact that when you have late minors, I'll put it that way, early teens, that have this tendency to torture animals, cats, dogs, etc. There is academic proof that they do go on to become more serious offenders, and ultimately that doesn't satisfy them, and they go on to become more. Now, it could be their that you have these sociological studies that indicate that this is a real, this could be a true situation. So that's why I said, that's why we're going to see in the Gemara, is it after the first offense when they get malchus? Okay. If there's a second offense, okay, then the question is, if there's a third offense, is it at the second offense that they're put to death, or is it at the third offense? Yeah, but it doesn't have to be reported in the school. But girls get away with it. I don't know if I would say they get away with it. But it's very clear that